Hello and welcome to Hidden Existence. Hope everyone's doing all right out there in still these lockdown times. My guest tonight is returning after I think I've completely forgotten which one it was now. Was it episode 8? But it's Jimmie Barr. Hello, Jimmie.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
You're welcome. Your encounters were incredible. What you experienced as a kid. If people go back and watch that episode, I think it's 8. I did look back and check. But you've had more stuff going on in your life that we said we'd bring you back and talk about. And we'll start with kind of deja vu experiences that you've had, which maybe seem more than deja vu.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how to go about having, there are simple things, where people have had deja vus. It was just like, I feel like I've been here before, or I feel like I've done this before, and it's just a sliver of something that seems familiar. And there's other people that have them to the certain extreme, and mine have been that way. I've never had anything that was it ended in a good way in the deja vu moment. There, every single one of the deja vus that I have are extremely terrifying, nightmarish. I end up in every one of them if I don't change something. I watch my family get murdered, my entire family, my boys, my daughter, my wife, and I live. And the fear and the terror of this happening is very overwhelming. And then, for example, there was one time we're pretty simple people. So when we go to a place called Texas Roadhouse, to us, that's eating out. That's going out somewhere nice. And my wife and I and my children were at Texas Roadhouse, and we were sitting there eating, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, of course, I've had these before, and so my wife sees what I go through, sees the emotion and then the fear, and she sees it instantly. And I tell her, we got to change places. You've got to get up. You've got to change places right now. And she's like, you're having another one again, aren't you? I'm like, yes, get up, get up, get up. And I had my back to the door. And when we got up and changed places, everything was fine. And it's usually a word, a sentence. Some of these things that happen, they are almost like, I hate sounding, it's going to sound kooky. It almost feels like a time slip, or stepping through time and jumping through. There's been times where we've watched TV, and we'll watch some of our shows that we like to watch. And for one example, we were watching Chicago PD about a year ago. New episode came on. We ain't never seen it. It ain't never been aired. But it got to a certain point, and one of the characters said something, and it triggered a deja vu. I knew exactly what was going to be said the next line, and I got up and I had to go lock my door. Because in my deja vu, it all came back to me. Somebody walked in my door, shot my family, and walked out and left me to watch it, let me to witness it. These things they're terrifying. I do not know how to explain them.
Well, go back to the beginning. When do you remember the first episode, or did this start before you were married? Because it seems like there's some kind of protection for your family here, and I don't know whether that's the common denominator, or if this started before.
I believe I have had them before, but I think the ones that I had before were just similar to anybody else that's experienced a slight deja vu. Like, I've been here before, even though I've never been here before, or I knew what was getting ready to be said into a conversation because I heard the conversation before. But with my family, it's been just like you said, and I've never thought about it. Maybe there's something protecting me. There's something that's making me more aware, subconsciously or whatnot, because I've had a dozen of these, and every single one of them is terrifying. And I had one about 3 nights ago. We were watching TV, and I live in a gated community. My community that I live in, when the realtor showed us this house, he said, you live in a community where everybody's either newlyweds or nearly deads, meaning there's a ton of older folks in this neighborhood. It's a gated community, a lot of people that have retired, and I gotta honestly believe that we are the youngest family in our neighborhood. And like I said, it's a gated community. It's tradition here in Florida. It was top 12 or something safest communities in the country like a couple of years ago. It's a fairly new community. I have nothing to worry about. We leave our door unlocked all the time. But it's been a few times, two or three times that it's happened here. But it was just a handful of days ago recently, where in the middle of watching TV, it was happening. We were watching the show, it was happening. I could tell you what was going on as it was happening, but then the incident was triggered where I needed to just get up and go lock the door. And I cannot explain it. I don't dare try, but you did touch on something that, maybe with some of the things that I've experienced, maybe there's something looking out. Maybe there's maybe being married and having children, it opens something up, with your subconscious and makes you more aware. Because I'll be honest with you, I was a pretty tough guy, wasn't scared of anything. And then when I had kids, I was crying at every Disney movie, and then when I didn't think I could get any more of a softie and be any more of a girl when it come to that kind of stuff, we had my one and only daughter last August, and she hits a place in my heart that I didn't know I had. So, a guy that gets all mushy then, now, forget about it. I'm a big sissy. I'm openly, I'm a big sissy when it comes to my family, but in the
wrong with
same
that,
time,
though. There's
no,
nothing
no,
wrong with
no,
that. Absolutely
no.
not. You're kind of more of a man for being like that.
Yeah. But at the same time, as softy as I am, I would die for them in a heartbeat and kill for them in a split second without hesitation. That's the person that I was before. And it just, like I said, I feel like since I've got more going on in my life as far as family goes, it's almost like an inner conscience is way more protective, way more aware. And, nowadays you kind of have to be. But I really do think that, there's something else going on, because there's no reason, when we lived in Georgia. And like I said, when I have these deja vus, when it happens, it's like I go back to where that experience that I'm having currently, I go back to where it entered my subconscious. Like I can go, it takes the one that we had here, the first one that we had here, we didn't even live here. We lived in a different state in Georgia. There is no way that I would have known that this is the house we were going to live in. This is the city we were going to live in. This is the TV show we were going to watch. And this was the episode. And this is the words that were going to be coming on. Literally, it was like stepping through time. I really don't know how else to say it. And as kooky as that sounds, and as kind of kooky as it feels to say, that's what it feels like. I'm not saying I'm a time jumper or a warp jumper or any kind of craziness like that. But it's how it makes me feel sometimes. Literally, I can be watching an episode of something that's never been aired before, and I know exactly what's going to happen next because I've seen it. I've experienced that moment, but I have to change. I can't just sit there. I have to change before it gets to a certain point, I have to do something different. Nothing ever happens, even though I do something different, but I don't want to let that play out, because every single time, you know, every single time it's me watching my family just getting murdered in front of me.
Your Bigfoot encounters when you were a kid with your brothers was terrifying, and that second one that broke that door, you know, opened the door. Do you think that plays in your mind as something that you can't control? Couldn't, you know, the door wasn't going to keep it out, did it? You know.
I don't know. See, that's one of the things that they've done when they did that reenactment on These Woods Are Haunted. They didn't stick true to my story. You know, they made it look like there was one Bigfoot, it came back, and there was two, and the one that came back was considerably bigger. And with it reaching in to try to grab us as we were contemplating going by the door, I do not know if that is a memory of something that had happened, or if that was a memory of, in my mind, of, is something going to reach in and grab us? And that part, I had told them, I don't want this in there, because I don't know if this was a memory projected out of fear or if it really did happen. They left it. They left it in. They put it in, actually. And I know that when that happened, it made me more aware of just things around me. Made me more aware of things around me, because when I was in East Tennessee, rolling through East Tennessee in the foothill parkways of the Smoky Mountains, I got vocalized again 2 different times in the same exact location. And it doesn't make any sense. We would have never known they were there as I was a child had it not vocalized at us. And I think I'd mentioned to you before off the air, you know, people say that they can't see, or they can see the infrared lights, you know, and if they can see infrared lights, that means they can see in a different spectrum than we can see. Maybe they can see, like mediums and psychics, you know, say that they can see your aura. Maybe they can see your tensions. Are you harmful? Or are you harmless? But I really got, I got answers that I would like to find out from that, because all 3 of my encounters, I would have never known they were there had they not vocalized at me. Now, granted, the first time when I was a kid, they vocalized at us first. The second time, third time when I was in Tennessee, it was through this beautiful scenery in the mountain, and I just driving through, and I was like, this would be a nice place to do one of them stupid Matt Moneymaker yells, and I did one, and that's when I got roar/yelled at from something from behind that had 2 different tones in its vocal cords. There was a really low, and then there was like a mid-range in the same yell, which is impossible for a human to do with the amount of power that it came from. Humans don't have lungs that big. When there's a low yell and growl and roar, you need to move a lot of air. That's where your bass comes from. I've been in a band for 25 years. In order to get really good sound, you need that low end to fulfill everything and move the air so it fills everything out. But I don't know where it comes from. And
Harry mentioned that actually the other night about the two noises that were coming out, just like you described.
Yeah.
That it was very strange.
Yeah, I didn't. Like I had said before, I've never heard a caveman or anything, but it sounded like a giant humanoid, and it went raw, and it had a mid-range in the same thing, in the same yell. And when I did my, silly yell, I mean, I'm a singer, so I've got a great set of lungs. I grew up in the 80s singing all the hair band stuff. So I can get up there and I've got some range and I've got some power. I could not even come close to the power that this thing had, and it was a lower frequency that I could never hit if I wanted to. I would need machines. I would need effects. I would need all kinds of things to do what this thing did. And I took it as, yeah, I hear you, now move along. So
did you say you'd recorded one of the vocals?
I did, and I can send that to you too.
Can you? Yeah, it'd be good to hear that.
Let me, can you still see me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, because I'm trying to figure out if I can do all this.
You've gone frozen, but that's fine. I think that's just because
okay.
Something, but yeah, send it to me and I'll put it up.
Well, can I send it to you through, it says unable to play during call. I don't want to play it. I want to.
No, just send it through Messenger.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm going to see if I can do that. It's showing that it's like 5 minutes long, but it is not. It's an error. File it's trying to send is too large.
Email.
Yeah, let me do that.
Do you want I'll send you my address, shall I?
I wonder if I can. I wonder if I can trim it down. For the love of Pete, seriously.
I'll just send you my email just in case you want to.
Okay.
It'd be good if we could get it up. I should have asked you for it last time, actually, when you told us about it.
Okay, let me open that. I'm going to open that up first. Here we go. And then let's go.
You have frozen up on the thing, but I think you'll probably come back.
Yeah, I think it's just because I've left the screen.
In the chat has experienced this kind of weird deja vu. I know I have, but it's been a while. Or if anyone has recurring deja vu or what they think it might be.
It's not letting me copy but I'm going to do a link sharing with you. That's cool.
I used to get a recurring dream of getting murdered. Same place, same injury when I was a kid, 3, 4 years old. 15 years later, my family member was murdered in the same way where my dream took place. That is scary. A prediction kind of thing, do you think, maybe? That's not a nice thing to happen. How are you getting on, Jimmie? I think we may have lost Jimmie. Anyone else with any experiences like this? Here we go.
I'm still here.
Back.
Yeah. Did I ever send you the cast that we pulled out of the Ocala National Forest? The 17-inch three-toed cast?
Let me have a look. You're in Florida, aren't you, Jimmie? Someone's asking down. Philo is asking. Very tropical.
Yeah.
And you've got a friend there called Freddie, is it? Freddie,
yeah.
the alligator.
Fred's been gone for about 3 weeks. I think it's mating season.
Right.
He disappears and then shows back up begging. And I am really trying to find. There we go. I'm going to send this to you through Messenger.
Okay. No, I'm just going to look back and see if I can find that cast. Oh yes, that was an interesting one. So there we go. That looks a bit mad, doesn't it? I don't know if you. Was there more
Yeah.
of those tracks?
Yes, we found probably about a half a dozen of those tracks. We found both right feet and left feet tracks, and they both had 3 toes. On the right side of that cast, it's a little bit out of shape because when we were pouring it in there, because it had stepped and made and this was in pine needles and twigs and sand, and so this one we were able to cast, and it came out really well considering it had all that debris in it. It was sunk down about 1.25 inches. But to the right side of that cast, it's got some funny looking knots on the shapes. That's just overflow where it flowed over out of the form. And believe it or not, this is the first time I ever did a cast. So, I was hoping that it wasn't going to be a complete disaster, but it turned out. And then me, I wanted to make a couple replicas so the guy I was with could have one and I could have one. And then I went and tried to make a replica and broke the big toe. But it still looks good. It's all good.
Yeah, it's a big one, that one.
Yeah,
I'm
very
just
large.
because I did ask people. Australia dreamt I had my 3rd child, a girl, and there she was 10 months later, not planned. It's a strange feeling. Is this a deja vu feeling, Brandon? The one that hit me the hardest was before I was going home for Christmas, Exodus leave in Maryland. I dreamt my grandfather was choking on his own vomit. Couldn't press the emergency button. That's not a... Well, they're like with you, aren't they? They're scary. Some of these, they fill you with some sort of... The feeling fills you with some sort of dread or uneasiness, even if it's not something terrible.
Absolutely. And when it involves your family and your children, then another level of fear comes. If it's one thing, if I'm walking down the road and all of a sudden, I get hit with I think I'm about ready to get attacked. It's another thing when you're sitting in the living room watching TV with your family, spending time with your family, and the fear of you've got to change what you're doing right this second because it's all going to go to shit real fast. And it almost doesn't matter if I feel like if I stay in that seat, that position, if I don't get up and change what is happening, it's just going to be the worst day of my life. And that is the bizarre, terrible. I can't imagine being without my family. I really can't. And I think that, like you said, maybe there's, something touched on the other side, or part of my brain is more awake than I am.
It feels like there's something going on there, but heightened more.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know, but
yeah.
Well.
Yeah, looking for answers. People have asked me, "Are you clairvoyant? Are you a medium? Are you psychic? Are you religious? Are you spiritual?" I don't feel like I'm any of those. Gosh, I hope I'm not psychic or clairvoyant. I'm really not even sure what those are. Honestly, I've never looked into them. I don't see. I mean, I've seen a couple dead people, but they were legitimately dead people, not some ghost floating by kind of thing. So I don't feel like it's anything like that, but I don't feel like there's anything special about me. Not at all. My wife would say different, of course, she likes me. So, but there's some things that don't make sense that, like some people are saying. I just jumped into the chat, and they're, great points. One side of your brain is here and the other side is open on the other dimension or side or whatnot. Those are things I've never thought of, and that's why I like the chats. So I'm gonna have to go back and look at some of those when I'm done.
I'm sure someone can say there's a scientific reason for it or something that the mind does. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it feels like there's a lot more to it than that, especially with
Mhm.
your experiences and some of the guys in the chat, their experiences. And Five Hazel says it's called being tapped on the shoulder by God.
Well, who was that said that?
Five Hazel, how you doing, Five Hazel?
Five Hazel. What I'm about to share with you, and what I'm about to share with Danielle. Danielle's heard it before because I've told her offline. I believe honestly that I was touched by God, but it took it's a friend that I work with is a pastor. And when I had told him what had happened to me, that's what he told me. He told me, he said, there are people that have spent their entire life to get what you got. There are people that are in the Catholic community, that wish they had what you just had, or not just had, but you had happen to you. There are people that spent their entire life devoted to God, that have dreamed for what had happened to you. And I didn't ask for this per se, but it did happen. And I'm probably going to get emotional talking about it. But I can go into that if you would like.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite an experience. And what maybe we should explain is this happened in a second, but
A split second.
less than a
Split second.
second. But it was almost like a download of information.
Yep.
So yeah, I think you should share it if you're ready to share it.
Okay. I want everybody to know this is about religion, and I'm not religious. I'm not spiritual. I've been to church. I've been baptized twice. The reason I was baptized twice is because my life was trash when I was a kid. I had a very abusive mother. And a year later, I wanted to get baptized again because I thought I had done something wrong. So I'm not spiritual, I'm not religious, but I had gone through some tough times like anybody else. But I had been married once before. And when my ex-wife and I split, she had taken my son and moved across the country, and threatened to never let me see him again. This has been July 29th of 1996. That was the day that, since that day, I have only seen my son 3 times. And when I was living back in Illinois, and this happened in the late 90s, I was working at a tire place. It was called Bridgestone Firestone, and we made off-road tires over OTR. And these are tires that go on trucks and cars. These are tires that go on huge coal mining tires, huge off-road vehicles, construction vehicles. We made some of the biggest tires in the world. I believe they were 15 feet, 10,000 pounds. And what's so bizarre about this is I hated that job, but I loved the money. I worked 7 at night to 7 in the morning. And I still remember my clock card, and this was that long ago. 11802 is my clock card number, but I can't tell you what I had for breakfast this morning. There are just certain things that stick, and I don't know why. But I had struggled with being away from your children, and this was my firstborn. Like I said, I grew up in the 80s, listened to all the 80s hair band stuff, and in fact, a little off the topic, but it might come back around. There was a band called Skid Row, and when they debuted their debut song "Youth Gone Wild" on MTV, back when they used to have music videos, I went and sold the guitar that I had and pawned it in for a microphone, and that shaped the next 25, 30 years of my life. And so my firstborn son's name is Sebastian. And Sebastian Bach is a lead singer of Skid Row, was. But being away from my son, for the first 18 months, he fell asleep on my chest. And when we got separated, I had a sleeping disorder because I couldn't sleep anymore. And so I turned into kind of a rude person. Without sleep, I think I went about 8 hours, 6 weeks. It's about all I had. My father dragged me to a doctor and said, "I hate you. Everybody around you hates you. You need to get some sleep. You're not you." And so being away from my child, not only was it an emotional pain, but it might be hard for some people to believe, there is actually a physical pain that comes with it. And I couldn't bear it anymore. I just couldn't bear it anymore. I contemplated suicide on a daily basis. And at this time, going to my prep booth, the tires, if anybody knows how a tire looks like, say a pickup truck tire, it kind of looks like a 55-gallon drum before it gets shaped and pressed into the press machine. And so my job was to spray the inner liner lube on the inside of the tires, and I had to drill about 40 holes on the sidewalls of each tire. Each rack held 8 tires. And so I could stab those 40 holes in each tire in about a minute. Now, I got really good at it really fast. And so one of my coworkers, we were walking back from break, and I looked at him and I said, "Man, there's got to be more to life to this. I should have went to college, because we hate our job, but we love the money, and being single at the time, do you give up the lifestyle you have for a happier career, or do you put up with the crappy work-home life balance to have nice things and be single?" Didn't have nobody to share them with but my cat. So Brian walks over to his part where he is at the tread machine, and I walk over to my prep booth, and I pick up that tire. And before I go any further, I want everybody to when Daniel explained it and said that it was like a download of information, it's pretty accurate. And if you want to really experience it, how it was delivered to me, I know it might be silly and it might be stupid for me to ask this, but if you can close your eyes for the rest of this, and just envision what I'm telling you, you'll see it and you might even feel it. Because the way it was presented to me, and that's one of my pastor friend that I have said, God, some people get the message through the Bible. Some people get the message through going to church. Some people get the message through praying. But he gets through to you in a way that that he knows you'll understand. All I did was music, and go home, being single, 7 at night, 7 in the morning. I slept all day. So movies, I'd go home and watch movies, play music, blah, 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 blah. So that being said, if you want to close your eyes and experience it this way, it'll make much more sense for you. I grabbed the drill that has the drill bit on it, which is like an ice pick stuck into the drill. And I stabbed that tire. And when I stabbed that tire in a flash, this was all presented to me in a movie as I'm the main character. And in a movie, as soon as I stab that tire, I'm sitting in a movie theater. The screen is completely black. There's nobody else in there. And in the movie, on the theater screen, a big white G appeared in the center. And then underneath the G, a big white O appeared underneath the G, and underneath the O, a big white D appeared. If you can picture that, you're in a movie theater, it's completely black, and you see the words God, vertical. Well, horizontally on the G appeared government, and then on the O appeared organized, and on the D appeared discipline. So it said God in big bold letters, but in the small letters it read government, organized, discipline. And then it fades away. And this is all in a movie format, just like you said, downloaded. So next thing you know, and I've got to explain it this way because this is how it happened. I can't explain it any other way. I'm the main character in this movie. It cut to scene me going to college, right? I just got through saying before this flash, I should have went to college. There's got to be more to life to this. Cut to scene, I'm in college and I'm enrolling and I need 1 credit. And in this 1 credit, I tried to find something easy that I could just blow through just to get it over with. Because I hate school then, I hate school now. So I chose something having to do with religion. So I naturally showed up to this this professor's class, showed up late, kind of walked in, bumped into people trying to find my spot, and he's talking, and I'm a humorous guy, you know, got kind of, I got tongue on me, but you know, I've got pretty good humor. If people got to know me, it's pretty easy to see. And they started talking about the reasons we do offerings to the church and the reasons we do this and the reasons we do that. And I chimed up with, why are we giving money to the church? For God. It's for God. Well, how's God going to get it? Are they UPS in it? They're FedEx in it? You know, I'm being a wise ass, basically, right? And so we have some words, and I get expelled day 1. I get kicked out of college day 1. I needed that credit to graduate, and I'm kicked out. Naturally, and this is all in movie format, naturally, anything that's controversial and revolves around religion makes the news. And the next thing you know, I'm being interviewed on Fox, I'm being interviewed on CNN, and MSNBC, local papers are interviewing me. And then I'm on with Jay Leno, right? This is all still my dream. This is this little movie thing that's presented to me. I'm on with Jay Leno, and Jay Leno's doing his bit, and he's talking to me, and he's like, so, you know, what got you on this kick? And, you know, I'm like, I'm not sure it's a kick. You know, I just had a simple question, and the guy went all weird. And I was like, but, you know, there are some questions. The Bible contradicts itself, but, you know, I don't not believe in it. I just got some questions. And he was like, well, like what? You know, I'm like, what if God was just made up? What if back in the day, the very first king, the peasants were starting to rise up, and what the king says goes, and everybody, the villagers, believe what the king says, and the king tells his right-hand man, just go tell them that if they don't settle down and go back to doing the things the way they were, they're gonna, I don't know, burn a fiery death for eternity. And he does that, and it works. Now the next kingdom over is like, what did you do? You know, and so he tells them word of mouth, and it's, you know, so this was just all my thing with Jay Leno is, what if, you know, everything's got a government. Lions, herd of lions, you know, pride of lions has a government, ants have a government, birds have a government, wild dogs and horses have a government. You name it. In the animal kingdoms, there's a leader and there's followers. And what if that's how it happened? And instantly, and I had mentioned, I said, because without government organized discipline, this world would be in chaos. Without religion, without a reason to do good, without a reason to be good, most people won't. You've seen them nowadays. You see them in this pandemic. People are crazy, and they should be being good right now. They should be helping each other, but it's every man for themselves right now. And so, I'd said that without religion, this world would be in complete chaos. And it happened overnight after I left the show. Not because I said what I said. I'm nobody. But because what had happened to me, paparazzi's following me around. They are following every second of what I do around. And it cuts to the next scene, 3 weeks later. People have gone to shit. Most people that went to church don't go to church anymore because they were like, well, that makes sense. What if religion is just the government's way of controlling us, keeping the peace? This isn't me, for everybody that's out there watching. This isn't me saying this. This is not what I feel or how I think, but this is what came to me. And the world was the murders, killings, rapes, abuse, violence in the streets, violence in the homes, in the businesses, all over the world. And then it went from that kind of violence to natural disasters, floods, fires, hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, you name it. The world was going to hell fast all around us. And I was back home. I was back home in my small little town of Atlanta, Illinois. And this is all still in movie format, in the scene. I walk out of our little grocery store, and there are 3 or 4 tornadoes closing in. And I walk out, and the paparazzi people are there. They're with video cameras. I can see on the TVs inside the store, I'm being filmed live. The world is watching every move I make, and I don't know why. I just don't know why. But I see these tornadoes closing in, tearing up my little town. And I look up into the sky. And I literally yell. And forgive my language, but I literally yelled, you fucking want people to believe you. You want people to have faith in you. The entire world is watching me. Show them. Let them know. And it's all symbolic, but this is how it happened to me. The skies went blue. All those tornadoes disappeared. And I started lifting up into the air. And it was in a gesture of Jesus on the cross. My arms were out. I'm not saying I'm Jesus. It was just, I'm not. This is the way this was portrayed. It was almost like he had to sacrifice somebody else so everybody else would see. The movie camera's on me. I'm floating up to the world. And this gigantic James Earl Jones voice from the heavens that rumbled the sky. And this is the bizarre thing. It said, believe, in this gigantic rumble. But it cuts to scenes where there's people in New York in, looking at the screens and seeing it and hearing it. There's people in Japan, in Beijing, and it says to them in Japanese, believe. There's people in other countries. It says the word believe in their language. There are people in Afghanistan and Iraq and Pakistan in their little huts crowded around this little television in the scenes looking, and it says believe from the sky in their language. It says it to everybody in a way that everybody can understand. Believe. And I'm not religious. I'm not spiritual. And when that happened, I snapped out of it. I had stabbed that tire. I was right back to that tire that I'd stabbed. I even felt the impact when I snapped out of it, of me hitting that tire. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed for a few seconds because it felt like somebody took a 5-gallon bucket of very warm water and dumped it on my head. And it went from my head all the way down. I could feel it go through me. It went all the way down. And once it got to my feet, I was able to move. I couldn't move. And I'm holding that drill, and I look over to Brian, and he gives me this look of like, dude, what's up? You know? And I look at him. I'm over there with my hunched down, holding onto that drill, still feeling paralyzed, but I'm not. And I just look at him, and I mouth the words, I don't know. So he comes over and puts his arm on me, and he's like, what's going on, man? Is it with your kid? Do you need some time to talk? I'm like, no, I don't understand what's going on. I said, what did you see? What happened? He said, you went over there, stabbed that tire, and started bawling like a baby. And that's what happened.
Well, it took you about 10 minutes to explain that, for that to happen.
I'm sure I left some stuff out.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here shaking. Like I said, it's an emotional thing. I'm not spiritual. I'm not religious. I don't go to church. I can do all the praying and all the asking for prayers anywhere. I don't feel like I need to go into a building to make somebody else rich. That's just my personal opinion. I've been to some churches that were great churches, and then they turned around and said, we didn't meet our goal of $72,000 last week in the offerings. We really need to step it up. That's not for me. When I pray, it's make sure my family is okay. I can take care of me. Don't let anything happen to my family. And I don't pray all that often. I don't. I go out of my way not to. I'm pretty stubborn because I feel like if there's something that I need, we can get it. But my friend that I work with currently, he's a pastor. He said, you were touched by God. There's no other way. There's no other way to explain what had happened to you. And I asked him, I was like, what am I supposed to do with that? I didn't ask for that. I mean, in a way, I said, there's got to be more to life than this. I should have went to college. Was that something that just entered all this into my subconscious? I find it hard to believe. I find it hard to believe that it made me paralyzed, that I could not move until that warm sensation that started from my head got through my body, inside and out, and got to my feet and hit the ground. And I don't know, like I said, I'm nobody special. I don't feel like I deserve that. There are other people out there that deserve that way more than I do. I didn't ask for it. I went home because it was my long weekend, and I locked myself in my house. It was just me and my cat the whole entire weekend. I didn't go outside. I didn't even look out the curtains. What had just happened to me was epic, is the only word I can think of. And I don't know why it happened to me.
So what changed with you after that then? How did your life change, or did it?
It wasn't. See, my wife that I have now, I've known all my life. I've known all her life. In my small town of Atlanta, Illinois, I lived in 1st Street. She lived in 2nd Street. So our back doors, our back of our houses were right there. So we knew each other growing up. About a year later, I started dating my current wife. So I think that might have been, maybe it was about 2 years later. No, it was about a year later. But it just shortly after, I started dating my current wife. which is bizarre because she had told her mom all her childhood, I'm going to marry him. And her mom was like, yeah, whatever. Her mom set me up with her older sister. So, and that didn't work out because she wanted a bad boy. And I told her I was not going to rob a bank for you. So, but like I said, I'm not religious. I'm not spiritual. But what that did to me, it didn't change who I was. It didn't change what I did. It didn't change how I went about things. Because again, I felt like that wasn't something that I deserved. It was not going to change I was not going to become a minister or a priest. It wasn't going to make me go to church. It wasn't going to make me change the direction of my life, leaving music behind and what I've always dreamed of doing. You know, if you've ever picked up an instrument or been a lead singer in a band, of course you have dreamt of touring the world, selling out arenas. Still got that dream, just a little old for it right now. But it didn't change who I was. It didn't change my personality. It didn't change my entire view of all things in general. It just, I think it answered.
What have you taken from it then, maybe?
I don't know. Maybe because I was at such a dark place and I did contemplate suicide on a daily basis because being without my son was too painful to live with, that maybe it was God's way of saying, you're not in this alone. Just hang in there. Something's around the corner. But again, I'm not going to say if that was God saying that, if that was a message from God. I don't know what that was. But when I had a couple people tell me and the pastor tell me that I was touched by God, for some reason I'm drawn to that making more sense than anything else.
It's interesting that you say you don't think you should have had that happen to you, but why not?
There are way more other people out there that deserve that than I do. People that worship on a regular basis, believe on a regular basis, live the life of the Bible on a regular basis, understand religion, and understand that believing in faith is, you know, the biggest part of religion, accepting God in your heart. I mean, of all the times I went to church, and this doesn't make any sense, the only verse I ever remembered was the verse that I was told when I was baptized the first time, and I was like 7. And it's John 3:16. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And I don't know why that's the only one I've ever heard. I'd gone to church for years as a child. Looking back of my life and that event that happened to me, it almost seems like that's the only one that really matters. You got to believe. You got to have faith. And that's, like you said, like that message was like, that was a message that was downloaded into me. Believe. And the such powerful part of that happened to me when I look back at it was just not a message for me. It was a message for the entire world, for everybody to hear it in whatever language they heard it. If you had ears and you could hear, it was said to you in a way that you could understand.
There's a couple of good points here from 2 people. Isaac, God comes for the unrighteous man, not righteous. We are all called to repentance. And Boomer on 2 wheels. Remember, it's not the well who need a doctor, but the sick. You received this because you needed it. That could be one way of looking for it. Those people who are already into the church and religion and whatever, maybe, you know,
Yeah.
they don't need convincing, do they? Or they don't need that they're getting the prayer support. I mean, I don't know how it works. Matrix 7's in, she'll tell us how it works, because she's had some interesting experiences. So, but you're not, like you say now, you don't have a relationship with God. You don't feel like that, or spiritual, or
I would say I don't feel like I do, because again, I'm stubborn, and I feel like if I can't get it, or me and my wife can't get it with our own two hands and our own means, whatever I'm reaching for, I don't need. Because I play guitar, but I'm not a guitar player. And I'm one of those people that know the difference. There are some people that play the guitar that think they're guitar gods, and they're atrocious. I sound like I'm playing a guitar with my elbows, but I love playing guitar. And I've got 6 guitars now, and I know that if I had $1 million, I'd have 1 million guitars. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I can't get with what I want or need with my own hands, with my own effort, then I don't need it, because I have all the happiness that I could ever want. I got all the happiness, more happiness than I deserve. And so I don't look outward for anything else. I don't know if that makes any sense. Does that make any sense? People feel the need to, I help people when I can. I do nice things for people. You know, I'm kind of that guy that'll help when I can. I feel like if me being the person that I am, and most people would say that I'm a very good person, if that isn't enough to get into heaven, then I don't need to be in heaven, I guess. I mean, part of me was really stubborn, because I rejected the thought of going to church, praying all the time, because I had a preacher. It's like, you know, so if I do this and I commit my life to God while I'm here on earth, and then make it to heaven, he's like, then you'll rejoice for eternity in heaven. And then when God is in your presence, you will bow down to his feet, and you will worship him. And that was one of those things that I was like, now hold on. Now, if I'm going to serve somebody for my entire physical life, and then have to bow down to him for eternity, I'm not feeling that. I've got things I want to accomplish in my physical life, that I want to do, you know. So there was a stubborn part of me that was just refused to go down that road of devoting my life to Christ. I've seen people devote their life to Christ but couldn't put a bread on their table. And that is nothing knocking them, nothing knocking how they live their life. I needed to spend time putting bread on the table, taking care of the family, bettering our lives, being happy with our lives, finding a career that we're happy with. So when we come home, we're not so pissed off at the world because work sucks so bad that you don't even want to be involved with the family life because the workday was just so atrocious. My focus has been on my family, not devoting my life to Christ. Like I said, I feel like I can pray at home if I need to. I can pray in the car or if I need to. I can pray in the shower or at work if I need to. And could be way off base with all this. Like I said, I'm not religious. I'm not spiritual. And probably half of your show has left because of the topic. And I apologize for that if they have. But I can't really, part of me just doesn't want to go down that road.
Well, there is some comments. Hang on, but I need to just get this one out before I lose it on the quite an important question. Jimmie, do you cover any jackal?
Yeah.
From Jake.
Oh, dang it, we did a couple. Down on Me was one, and we were attempting to do When Will It Rain. Most of the stuff that we did, the last band I was in prior to walking away from covers was I was in a Poison tribute band. So I was the Bret Michaels of the band. But the stuff I shined on was Sebastian, was Skid Row, was Steelheart, was the stuff with real good range. And
bit
so,
of Bon Jovi in there. Bit of Bon Jovi in there as well.
Bon Jovi. Yeah, my nickname for a long time was Jovi because people would turn their back and swear to God that John Bon Jovi was in the room. And I still love the hair metal stuff because that's when musicians were amazing and vocals were amazing and songwriting was amazing and you could actually understand what they were saying. Being a singer-songwriter, I like for people to hear what you're singing.
Yeah, it does help, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does help. Hi, Joseph. You only get what you can handle, bro. That's the mysterious way that God works.
Yeah.
There was another one here from Five Hazel again. Is listening to your heart and soul more important than listening to your mind?
Is listening to my heart and soul more important than listening to my mind? Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. This might be a selfish answer because for people that are religious and spiritual, and I'm not, there's a higher power. I believe in it. I believe that I was touched by God. There's no other explanation for it. But my focus will always be on my family. My priorities will always be my family. I will never walk away from my family for God. And that's going to really make some of your listeners mad. Because at the end of the day, when I walk into my house, I have got a great family. I am very blessed, is a word that people use a lot, to have an amazing wife, amazing boys, and a beautiful little girl. That's my priority. And as much as it doesn't sound right and as selfish as it sounds, they will be my priority before anything else. I'll walk away from music. I'll walk away from everything else before I walk away from my family. And that includes if Jesus is in my doorstep tomorrow and says, come with me, I'm sorry, man. I'm not going to leave my family.
It's a choice, isn't it? It's a choice.
Yes.
Religion, whatever, belief. And it's not selfish because, you know, if we're not, you know, as I look at it, you know, I create what happens in my life. When things are good, I worked at making that good. When things went bad, I worked at getting myself out of. I never, you know, pray for anything or call for, you know, any help. And, you know, I think it just depends where you're at. This thing, when you're saying there, what you're saying might upset people. It shouldn't upset people. And I hope people don't get upset because we all work differently. We all believe in different things. And, you know, we have to respect whatever people want to do, you know, as long as it doesn't affect anybody else. But I kind of like you when you're saying it's selfish. It isn't selfish. We're here to live our lives and we do it the best way that we can.
Yeah.
You know,
I think one of the things that
you want to protect them, and you know, that's not selfish. That's
I think what makes it selfish for me is my family can live without me. But the reason they're so important to me, besides me loving them more than life itself, is I don't think I can live without them. And I think that's where my selfishness comes in. That's why family for me is so important. My family, not just my wife and my kids, my father, my mom, you know, I've got siblings, I got brothers and sisters and whatnot. And we've all kind of grown apart over the years. You know, some are on the other side of the state, some are states up north. You know, we're all living our lives, but you know, my father and my mom are she's my stepmom, but she's my mom. She was more of a mother to me than my birth mother has ever been. So she's my mom. They're my family as well. They're people that I would die for and kill for. Again, it's selfish on my part to say it because I know they could all live without me, but I'm not so sure that I could live without them.
I think you're probably stronger than what you think you are, you know, as well. But I guess everyone feels like that towards things that mean a lot to them, you know. And this is an important question because I could see you getting upset. Hi, Debbie. Do you get to see your son now? Do you get to see Sebastian? You're not?
No. I've tried several times to make contact. I've tried to go down when I lived in Illinois, come down to Florida to see him. You know, when a child is fed and brainwashed year after year after year after year after year about a person, they either tend to believe it or, you know, as kids get older, and parents out there, and I'm not saying any of you are, but this might help somebody out there who maybe has had that bad day and hadn't come home and hugged your child enough or said something to your child. Kids get a little bit older, in their teens, in their late teens, they got things going on themselves. And out of sight, out of mind hits hard and it hits fast. So try not to let that get away from you. I was kept from my son. I've made several trips and several attempts, and my ex-wife would put him on the phone when I would call, and she would literally say, Zach, because his middle name is Zachary, Sebastian Zachary Barr. Zach, your friend's on the phone. Not your father, your friend. She'd hand him the phone, and I could hear her say it, gritting her teeth, make it quick. So I'd get about 2 minutes on the phone with him, you know, with mother breathing down his neck. And so it put him in a awkward situation. I had to reconnect with him every time because we were kept apart. He's in the military now. Which I'm proud of him for that. But he's just chosen a path that he's old enough that he can make his own decisions. I would have just think that if I was let in his life, his path wouldn't be so dark. But I do not, again, half a dozen of one, you know, 6 of the other kind of thing. Had that worked out, I wouldn't have the amazing children I have now. And maybe it was not supposed to be in the cards. I still have a sleeping disorder 25 years later.
Maybe it's not resolved yet. Maybe there's time still yet for that too. Yeah. Maybe there'll be a time when he's ready and he wants to know who his dad is, you know.
Yeah, the times that he has reached out, it was, you know, typical child stuff. Hey, I need some money. And then not hear from him from 2 years. The path that I'm on now, you know, I can't imagine my life any different. Again, me and my wife tried to have a girl for the last 5 years, and not last December, but the December before last, I decided to trade my minivan in, get my man card back, and get another pickup truck. So I traded my minivan in early December of not last year, the year before. It got me this big, beautiful Dodge Ram. A couple weeks later, we found out we were pregnant.
Wow.
After trading in my minivan for a pickup truck, right? And then everything changed with finding out that I was having a girl. We were having a girl. I wanted my wife to have a girl. She had 2 boys, and I just wanted her to have a daughter. I wanted to have a daughter too, but I didn't know how much I wanted to have a daughter until they told us that we were having a girl. And then again, I went from being that stern dude that, you know, is tough into this giant
Blubbering
baby.
rep.
Yeah, blubbering and sobbing, and right. But there is people have told me before, and I just thought it was BS. There's a different place in your heart for your girl than there is your boys. And I'm like, no, it's all the same. It's all the same. It is not all the same, people. It is not the same. And I don't get it. She did say dad first, so there's that. So,
There you go.
yeah, all
There
the
you
boys
go.
said dad first. But my wife, I'm one of those guys that I realize how amazing women are and what women have to go through to have children. What gives me the right to cut that umbilical cord? She is the one that did all that. She is the one that went through all that. And none of my children that I cut the umbilical cords. I let my wife do it. You did this. You're amazing. And I couldn't do this. I am down for 4 days if I stub a toe. So women, you women, having children, it's just amazing. And I commend every single one of you out there.
That's a very nice thing to say.
Yeah.
It's probably not said enough, is it?
No.
Moggy on Monster, he can relate to you. Sorry, I've lost the comment, but he's not seen his daughter in nearly 17 years. That's a long time. That's a long time.
Yeah.
I hope,
that sucks. Just, I guess what I can say for people that have gone through it, one, children are not leverage. There's so many women out there that want that child support. They want to keep that child away from the husband, away from the father. Children are not leverage. What I can say about being away from your children every day hurts just as bad as the first day. But it's amazing how used to pain you can get to. You can get used to pain, and you can get used to the darkness that comes with that pain. So it gets easier to deal with because you get used to the pain, if that makes any sense. And I think, you might said that, I might be tougher than I give myself credit for. I've gone through a lot of pain when it comes to that, but there's been other people that's gone through way more than I have. So I don't ever use that as a woe is me type thing. Again, that's one reason why I'm not asking God for this. I'm not asking God for that. There are other people out there that need it way worse than I do. Why clog up your mind with a useless prayer of, I'd really like to have that Steve Vai guitar that just came out and can't afford it, kind of thing. Because I'm taking care of my family. My wife and I are taking care of my family. We've got this. We've got this. I don't need anything else.
Well, you sound like you know where you're at and where you're going. And as Five Evil says, if you live in the past, you don't move forward.
Right on, man.
You've got to keep moving forward, haven't you? And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, things don't change till you change a lot of the time.
Right.
But hopefully for you and for Moggy on there, you eventually get that connection maybe, or, you know, something with your
Mm-hmm.
kids, because that would be a shame for that not to happen.
Yeah, there's one thing, this is off topic, but there's one thing that really scares me and has put me on edge about my daughter. And I don't know if anybody else out there has had this experience before. Maybe it's just me, but all of my boys, my first son included, I had dreams of what they were going to look like, and in stages of their life. And I've been able to see those come to pass. I've been able to see, they've all came out and looked like my dad. Every single one of them came out and looked like my father, and I was expecting to get a lecture from every single one of them as soon as they came out. But my daughter, I haven't seen that. I haven't had that dream. I haven't had that image in my head of what my daughter's going to look like. And that scares me. That, for some reason, that's concerning to me. And I don't know why that's concerning to me. It could just be, again, that she hits a different place in my heart, and I'm reaching and reaching and reaching. But my boys, I had those dreams and those images before they were born. And I still, to this day, can't tell you what my daughter's going to look like 6 months from now. That bothers me. I don't understand if that makes any sense. Part of me, my subconscious, makes me feel like that's telling me that maybe she's not going to be here for me to see it. Or maybe I'm not going to be here to see it, you know. But it's unnerving as a father, somebody who's so dialed into my children. That part is unnerving.
I feel like you're very protective towards your family. I'm not saying what you haven't experienced. You have clearly have experienced stuff. Maybe you just haven't seen that image yet. Maybe it's just not come around yet, and that's why.
Right. That's what I keep telling myself. I keep telling myself, don't think of the dark stuff. Don't think of maybe she's not going to be here for me to see it, or maybe I'm not going to be here to see it. But it's just, I've seen all my other boys. I had the image and the vision of them, what they're going to look like, and how they ended up looking like what I had exactly. My first son, Sebastian, I had a dream of him being in some little mint green overalls and some little construction boots, you know, when he was like 12 months old. And they're 12 months old. He's got the mint, the same exact as my dream, you know, kind of thing. And that's, like I said, they're so vivid that I've got nothing on my daughter. Maybe it's because she's got me wrapped and she's got me guessing, you know.
She could have.
She does have me wrapped.
Yeah. This is a good point. Boomer on two wheels again. Yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today's the gift, which is why they call it the present. And the point is to just enjoy every day like it's your last.
And I do. Like I said, I come home and I've got the best here, which is, it's all I need. That's why I don't seek for anything else.
What's going on with your music at the moment? Have you got some stuff coming out?
Well, I just released 2 weeks ago one of my songs called Full Throttle. I had an illness, and it caused me to have an infection in my skull, and I run your mastoid bone. That's that knot behind your ear. If you reach around behind your ear and feel that bump on the back of your ear, it's your mastoid bone. It's a part of your skull. I had an infection. I had MRSA and staph back there for about 2.5 years. And I was on antibiotics for 2.5 years. It wasn't about 45 days combined that I wasn't on antibiotics. And when I had that infection, ear, nose, and throat's all tied together. So I had this MRSA and this pus running down my throat. And I ended up having to have a PICC line for 7 weeks, which went into my bicep and then went all the way up into my heart. So I had to have 2 different kinds of antibiotics injected into my heart for 7 weeks, and they were pretty harsh. And with the drainage for 2.5 years, and these harsh drugs going into my heart, and the stress that I was in, it kind of fried my vocal cords from all the drainage. And the thing about two things I loved about myself was my voice and my hair. All the girls were jealous of how long and how blonde and how pretty my hair was. And it just started falling out fast through the stress and through the medication that I was on. So I started giving country music a try. I don't have a country voice, and I know that, but I can write a damn good song. And last year I submitted 1 song to the Josie Music Awards. And if people aren't familiar with the Josie Music Awards, they're the world's largest independent award show. So I submitted 1 song, and there were 24,000 songs submitted last year. And that song was nominated for Modern Country Song of the Year Male. I did not win, but it felt like a win to me because people in the music industry were the judges and recognized it. This year I submitted 5 other tunes. If I get nominated, great. It's a win for me. Would I love to come home with one of those crystal trophies? Hell yes, I'd love to come home with one of those crystal trophies. The reason I started writing and recording my own music is because I've been doing this for 25 plus years, covers. Okay, people. Now, when I did covers, I tried to mimic the vocalists. I didn't go out there and sing me doing Skid Row. I wanted people to hear Sebastian Bach when we would do Skid Row tunes. I wanted people to hear Firehouse when we did Firehouse tunes. So 25 plus years of me sounding like somebody else, and I never knew what my own voice sounded like. I never knew what Jimmie Barr was supposed to sound like singing his own stuff. And even to this day, it's still a struggle. I have to try not to sound like somebody else. And I'm not a country singer. I don't have that country twang, but I've got some good songs out there. Musically, they're amazing. Lyrically, they're amazing. They need a Kenny Chesney singing them, though, or they need a Luke Combs singing them, or a Blake Shelton singing them. But there's some damn good songs. They've all got meaning. The first song that I wrote for my wife was called Yes, and it's based on the premise of how people don't think about it, but how just one word can change the direction of your life. You can ask somebody to marry you, and it doesn't matter if that word is yes or if that word is no. It's going to change the direction of your life. And so that song is called Yes, and and it's got the word one in it a lot, on the premise of one word, one bottle of wine, one candle lit, one knee on the floor, hoping she says yes. One box in my hand, one life to live, 1 second away. Oh, this is it. Hoping she says yes to a life with me, hoping she says yes to a family, hoping we grow old with no regrets. I'm hoping she says yes. All my lyrics have meaning. One of the best ones that I think I wrote lyrically, it's a great love story. To me, it's an epic love story, but I had a title in my mind. What's going to be a really country sounding title? Girl Named Grace. That sounds pretty country. I didn't know no Grace. I've never known a Grace in my entire life, but it was totally country. And we went to Clearwater for vacation about 2 years ago, and I couldn't sleep, and I wrote that song in a half an hour. And it is an epic tune. It's about young love, living in a small town, going to carnivals, going to little small town fairs, and the next town over have fairs as well. So those people will come over to your town, you'll go over to their town. That's how you meet new people, and it's that young love kind of thing. And I'll just give you the words for the first verse and the first chorus. And it's I was just a boy, she was just a girl, with a pretty smile and some golden curls. But summer came and went like it was a race, and I miss holding hands with a girl named Grace, because she had my heart at the very first glance. And when she walked up to me, I didn't stand a chance. I won her a teddy bear at the carnival game, gave her cotton candy, and I asked her name. That's the night that everything changed because a girl named Grace. And the next verse is summertime again. Fair came back around again. Summertime again at the county fair. Still got that pretty smile and that teddy bear. We didn't skip a beat, nothing out of place, because I was holding hands with a girl named Grace. You know, and then we get older, and there's this sad part. And so I mean, it's a great song. It just needs somebody with a great country voice singing it.
Well, if there's any great country singers out there watching tonight,
yeah,
get in touch. But your tunes, you can find them on.
they're on iTunes, Amazon, all the online music stores. Full Throttle is just that. It's a pretty fast rock and country. It's people call it outlaw country type. Great guitar work, great soloing. Again, country is not my natural thing, but I wanted to dip my toe in. I wanted to step out of the ordinary. I've got a great R&B tune. It sounds like Justin Timberlake should be singing it, but I still have that good range. I've got a little bit of soul in me too, that I can do that song myself and still pull it off and make it great. And I think that's next on my list. I'll probably do a couple more rock tunes and a blues tune, and then call it quits, see where it goes. But I've got so much invested into music. I wanted to actually have something to show for it.
And you have. You've got some good tunes out there.
My children sing my songs back to me, so if nobody else sings them back, that's fine. My kids do. So
now I've completely forgotten, but you sent me that vocal earlier on. So should we have a listen to that before we?
Yeah, I'll try to set it up. This was the second time I went back. The first, so I went to, it was September 20th of last year is when was the pre-show, and it was held at Blake Shelton's club in Gatlinburg, Old Reds. And that was the September 20th. I went through to the award show. I was going to the hotel to check in first. And that's when I first went through the Foothills Parkway in the Smoky Mountains. And I got out and looked. What I did was I got out and looked at the valley, and I was like, I wonder if I'd do one of those stupid Matt Moneymaker calls, and hear an echo. And I yelled out to the valley, and I'm thinking, I literally said it in my head. And that's another thing. I'm not there on the mind speak, but every time I say something in my head with my encounters, there's been a response, a physical response with what had happened. I literally said, "You dumbass, you just yelled out there to the wide open area. You're not going to hear an echo, and nothing is going to say anything to you because you just yelled at a big old wide open area." Within 5 seconds, I was, I got that roar / yell from behind. And so I went back a month later. This is over 12 hours away from where I live. I'm not going to drive 12 hours there and 12 hours back for maybe, or I'm not really sure. I know what the hell I heard, and I know what I experienced, and it wasn't the first time. So what you got on tape is and when I did it, I didn't have my cell phone in my hand because I didn't expect anything to happen. It was not on my mind that I was going to have anything happen. But when I got out of my truck the second time, I opened my door with my truck running, with my phone recording on video. I got out of my truck, parked in the exact same spot, went to the back of my truck, got on the sidewalk, turned around. This time I did the same exact yell in the direction of where I heard me getting roared from. And it's about 5 seconds later, instead of getting the great big roar back at me, what I got was what sounds like a whoop, but in reverse. Most whoops, you hear them low and they go from low to high. Whoop! This was in reverse. It was whoo! And it was very ape-like. And it sounded like a different one. I'm sure it has the ability to, it just felt like it was a different one. Absolutely. It's then after I go, ah, and then it does that whoo back at me. I instantly, I'm like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? So I go whoop back at it. And then there's just like some background noise. You can cut it after that because the whole thing is 5 minutes long, but there's nothing there. Just nothing there.
Okay, so it starts. It's pretty much as I started, is it?
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's at the very beginning. That was it. Woo!
Interesting.
And it came right back from the same location.
Mm.
And up in that, I believe there's caves. I believe it because when I went up there the first time, because I called my wife as soon as that thing growled at me, and I don't know if anybody had listened to me when the first time I was on. I'll go through it really, really fast. I don't know how much time we got. That thing, first time it roared at me, I called my wife and was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She's like, don't go out there now. You are. You're not going to do anything. I said, I'm not going to. I don't have the right shoes on. I'm in flip-flops. Can't do it. As soon as we got off the phone, I took my flip-flops off, put on my hiking boots, and I went up there. I went up there, got to a certain point. As I made in stride, something told me, do not take another step. Something internally said, don't take another step. And I didn't. When my foot hit, because my thought process was, I'm going to go farther up the hill, cut back over to above where it was and look down, because the way my mind works is when I'm in the woods and I'm looking, if you're going up a hill, not only is your eyes filtering out the ground, it's filtering out the trunks of the trees, and it's also, you've got the clutter of the canopy of the trees. So your eyes is filtering a whole lot of stuff, and I wanted to eliminate the canopy altogether. I wanted to be able to focus on horizontal movement in a vertical world, trees, something moving in the trees. So I was like, I couldn't make that step, so I started to go into the direction where I heard it, got about 15 yards farther away towards the direction, and same thing happened. Something said, do not take another step. This is going to be very, very bad if you do, in mid-stride. So when I did, I went back. So I went back a month later, and when I did that yell that you just played, and that's what I'm going back to, where I don't know about the mind speak, but they sure as hell have answered me with what I have said in my mind on 2 different occasions. And the second one was clear as day to me what it was telling me. I just drove 12 and a half hours, and I said to myself, I went over to my driver's door was open, so if you can picture that, and the driver's side is facing the mountainside where I got yelled at. I sat in my driver's seat with my knees and feet facing out, changing into my hiking boots, and I literally said in my mind, I just drove 12 and a half damn hours. There is nothing going to stop me from going up that damn hill. I said that into my mind. What had happened to me was it sounded like somebody picked up a tree, not a branch, not a log. It sounded like somebody had a tree and picked it up and crushed it against another tree. I could hear the bark on bark, and it was obliterated. There was no cracking of any trees that sound like, if a tree on a hillside and the mountains falls, you're going to hear all kinds of crack and limbs and snaps and stuff before a tree even hits. It went from silent to crush, and it changed my mind. I didn't cross that road. I said in my mind, there is nothing that's going to stop me from going up there, and instantaneously crunch. And that was enough alone to make me think. I mean, I cannot describe how big, like I said, this tree that it hit had to be huge, and the tree that hit it had to be huge, and whatever the hell was wielding this thing had to be huge, and I had no chance at all. I drove 12 and a half hours up there. I stayed in my truck that night listening, and I could hear them slowly pacing from left to right all night. I would hear step in the leaves, step, step, and this would happen for about a 30 yards this way, and they would come back 30 yards, and it just did the same step, step, and they were slow steps, but I could hear them from across the road in the leaves. So again, not to babble, but I'm not sure where I am on the mind speak, because some people really shine, shun the people that talk about that. Nothing talked to me. I was saying in my mind, nothing's going to stop me from going up there. And instantaneously, it answered me and said, "You want to bet?"
And you didn't go any further?
No, I never crossed the road. The first time I went up there, all blazing to figure it out. This time, it was a message set, and what made me realize I believe this place is a residence for them, because I went back a month later and they were still in the same exact spot. And when you Google Earth, look that image, there's actually a dark spot in the canopy where it's like the canopy is of the trees makes a circle. And that's very bizarre to me, that all that space around it is all canopy, but then there's a dark circled spot in the canopy in that exact location. Not that the government went out and put a black spot in it. There's a shadow, circled shadow in the canopy. And I'm not saying that they're in the trees. I'm saying I think they've done something to the canopy, because when you're coming up around that corner, all of those trees, you know how like if it's pitch black outside and somebody's outside looking inside, you can't see them, but they can see you. In the daytime, coming around that corner, looking through those trees, those limbs and stuff were broke all the way up to the canopy, and it was pitch black in there, and I couldn't see in there. And it was almost like they had a window to look out to see what was coming around the curve, but you couldn't see in there. And the reason I believe that they're frequently, because the first time when I went up there, I saw dinner-sized stones that were on top of hundreds of years of leaf litter. It hasn't been logged on this mountain. And they were on top of the leaves. There was no dirt. There was no looking like they rolled down the hill. There weren't even leaves laying on them. And there was about 10, 12 of them. And some of them were behind the base of trees. I carried one for, I don't know, 10, 15 yards. And I'm like, why am I carrying this rock? What am I going to do with it? Am I going to take it? But I didn't notice it walking in because I'm not looking. I already know I'm not going to see any footprints. There's 6 inches of leaf litter on the ground. So I wasn't looking at the ground. I had no reason to look for the ground. But on the way back, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back the same way I came in, path least resistance. That's when I started noticing all these great big rocks and stones, dinner plate size rocks, 15, 20-pound rocks on top of the leaves. They should have been covered just like everything else, like other logs and sticks. So that told me something's been up there walking around, carrying rocks. And surely there's not one goofy, Sasquatch up there carrying 10, 12 rocks and stumbling and just clumsily dropping them. But it was recent. Like I said, these things didn't have mud on them. They didn't have leaves up against them. They were on top of all the leaf litter. They were out of place. And my mind looks for what's out of place.
What's going to happen this year if you get nominated and you have to drive over there again?
I'm stopping.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to East Tennessee anyway.
Right.
But this may give me a second opportunity to go back.
Are you going with any plan in mind to kind of capture anything? Or just
yes. I'm going to have my phone running again. I'm going to try not to say anything into my head so to have something convince me not to otherwise. Going alone is really tough to do because of my childhood encounters. There's a fear that these things project that is not like any other fear I've ever experienced. It's not just a fear of I've got a bad feeling. It's a fear that takes over your entire body. It makes your voice tremble. It makes you have shakes. It almost makes you not function normally. It is a primal fear, and it's almost like, I'm not saying it's what it is, but it's what it feels like. It almost feels like it's instilled into us because maybe way way back in the day, we used to have to battle for survival with these things. And it's just like, you know, how cats and dogs hate each other. They don't know why they hate each other. They just hate each other. And a cat sees a dog and a dog sees a cat and they know some shit's about to go down. I feel like maybe that is a sense that we have of them. Because going up there alone in nighttime, I know I can't do that, especially unarmed. I'm a lot braver when a friend of mine is carrying. If I got somebody carrying, I'd probably chase it until it turns around and says it's really not a good idea to do that.
You've said you're going with the right intent, and you're not going to harm.
Right, yeah.
And so, hopefully there won't be any bad energy and like you said, the last time you step forward and suddenly that feeling of I'm not stepping another foot forward.
Yeah.
It's time to back off.
Yeah. I listen to that. I'm not a researcher. But I do go into the woods. I have been going into the woods now for about 3 or 4 months. I was with a Bigfoot group, and there was just way too much damn drama. It was supposed to be different than all the other Bigfoot groups in the community, but it wasn't. And I'm going looking not for research reasons. I'm going looking because I want another encounter, but I want it as an adult. I want to be able to process it as an adult. And maybe if I have an encounter or a sighting as an adult, it will make some of this childhood fear go away, because the fear that I go through when I tell about my encounter, I'm reliving my child fear. I'm in that fear moment. Like I said, it's not any other way that I can explain it, but I want to have one as an adult to be able to process what I'm looking at. When I was a kid, what I focused on the most was the knees of all things, because it fell 15 feet out of a tree and I expected it to crash to the ground. And so I looked towards the ground and all I seen was its knees, because it barely even bent its knees on impact 15 feet up. That's when I looked up and then looked at it in the face, and it looked at me and opened its eyes really big, like, oh shit. And that's when I saw the whites of his eyes. I was only 5 feet away from that one, and the big one at the window, 5 feet away.
You've had a lot, haven't you? You've had a lot of stuff happen. Got a lot to deal with,
Yeah.
Those encounters, the deja vus, See,
I think I can handle all the Bigfoot stuff. I can handle the God, touched by God stuff. The deja vus are the things that also really scare me, because I feel like somehow it's a personal attack on my family, and I've got to do something to change the scene. I have to change the scene.
It's very strange. It's very strange. I'd be interested if anybody else has felt like that. Anyone who listens back to these, if they've experienced anything like that, because I don't know what it is. We might never know what it is.
Right.
But it's all connected. Radar, everything is all connected, isn't it? It's just we don't know what all the dots are, though, do we?
Right.
What all the dots are. And hello, Treva. Jimmie, you're a very strong person.
Thank you.
And I think you are as well. Well, thank you for sharing all that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me back. I love listening to your show. I am not here to bash on any other shows. I've been on other shows. I've been on the biggest podcast out there for the topic of Bigfoot. And as much as I wanted to talk and talk about my encounter, because listening to this podcast, it felt like therapy to me. Turns out that I was just content for this podcast, nothing more. Makes you feel like something else, but nothing more. And followed the podcast, was a paying member for over a year for the podcast, but then was turned around and openly attacked and mocked by that same podcast in a way that only I and them would know, but everybody else wouldn't know. And to use that platform to do that was very disappointing to me. And I will no longer support, follow, and listen to them podcasts. But it doesn't feel, talking to you, and that's what I had mentioned to a couple other people, I don't feel like I'm content. I love talking to you. Yes, it might be content for the show, but you have literally said, hey, if you've got something else or something else happens, let me know. And
I think it's just good to talk to people about this stuff, and especially with people who have had experiences, and that's the interest. It's not about the content, because you can't give everybody everything that they want. And so on with me, especially on this channel, we're getting things, you're gonna hear things that I'm interested in. It's not necessarily a big hot shot, or huge story or whatever. That it's it's about people's lives and what people are experiencing, and a place to share that, maybe connect with other people, or make someone feel like they're not the only one that have experienced that. And if people want to come on and share their experiences, then I'm really grateful of that, and honored that they do that. So I'd like to think that this is the place where people can come and get it off the chest, or share, or just come and listen.
Well, it really is a therapy that you can't get anywhere else without spending hundreds of dollars. At first, it was very hard. See, my childhood encounter, my little brother was my best friend. He knew nothing about it. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, different dads, different moms. Like my brother and I share the same dad. We have different moms. And vice versa, my other brothers and sisters. He knew nothing about this, and I'm still not sure he does. My best friend that was in my band for 25, 30 years, I didn't tell him about it until about 6 months ago. He blew away. He was floored. It's just not, it wasn't something that you talk about. It wasn't something, it was, like I said, I had such a trashy, horrible childhood that was suppressed away with all the other dark things that I had went through as a child. And then when it came out, there was a floodgate of emotions and fear and detail that I forgot I had. And
a lot to process. Any PTSD, shock, trauma, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter what the experience is. People's, like I was talking to Kerry the night about, you don't have to be in the army to experience PTSD. It's a symptom from a shock, and that can be a different for everybody, but the feelings are exactly the same. It takes a long time to deal with stuff like that, and that's why
and you have to be able to accept it. Some people that had these encounters, whether it be Bigfoot or supernatural, or dogman, ghosts, witches, demons, some people will have it and know exactly what has happened to them, but will refuse to accept what has happened to them. Because once you accept that, holy crap, a Bigfoot just fell out of a tree and landed 5 feet from me, and these things are supposed to be fake, these things are supposed to be myths, these things are supposed to be made up. Once you accept that that happened to you, you now have to change and adjust your entire reality. And for a lot of people, that is just too much to ask, because again, this might come back to, it might come back to religion someday. If finding out these things are part human, if finding, you know, some people believe they're Nephilim, if finding out that these things are part Nephilim, it's going to turn the Bible on its ear. And that is a lot to ask people to accept, because now you have to change your entire reality. And my 2 brothers that experienced the Bigfoot falling out of the tree and the one showing up, they still to this day don't want to talk about it. They say the same exact thing that my stepfather had tried to say. He tried to say that it was my cousin. My cousin was a year older than me at the time. I was 7 or 8. That would have made him 8 or 9. There's no 8 or 9-year-old in this world that's going to pick up a cinder block and throw it through a damn door and then get into an 8 or 9 foot monkey costume and stand in front of a window and take up the entire window from the chest to the forehead and the inside of the shoulders. To this day, it's easier for them to accept that it was my cousin than to accept what it really was. They will not talk about it. They just say that it was Franklin and change the subject. They don't want to talk about it. It is just, again, it is for some people.
It's whatever paradigm they're living in, isn't it? It's whatever world they live in. That's the only way some people can explain it, deal with it.
You have to change your reality and accept it.
You or not.
Yeah.
Some people just, you know, can't or refuse to see it any other way. It is.
And when I was listening to Carrie the other night and talking about his fear, and I get it, God, I wanted to reach through and give him a social distancing hug, man. I was like, man, I'm right there with you. I understand about the fear and going back to it, because when I see the one that's at the window looking right at me, I'm in that moment too of I get the shakes. My insides feel like they're trembling. My voice starts to tremble. My body starts to tremble. It's not a natural fear. It's not a natural fear. I've been in car accidents and driving a dump truck and got hit by a fully loaded dump truck at 70 miles an hour. I was flipped over and I had another dump truck on top of me. I should have been dead. I didn't get a single scratch on me. That should terrify me. Nothing. But this, it's almost like I shouldn't be talking about it, because once I change the subject, the trembling goes away instantly. The fear goes away instantly. As soon as I start talking about my encounter, it puts that childhood fear that I had, it's right there in the forefront. And when Carrie was explaining that, unless you've experienced that kind of fear, it's hard to explain it. It's really hard to explain it.
Kerry was talking about it the other night, and he was getting out of breath. He was just talking it. You could see it, you know, how it was affecting him. It's, you know,
it's not just soldiers.
Very powerful stuff, isn't it? Very powerful stuff. Well, look, we've nearly done 2 hours. We've had a good night tonight, a good chat. Just seeing where it's gone, because it's really anyone's guess what is happening and what that's about. And, you know, obviously, if anything happens, or you're enlightened by any of it, come back on and tell us.
Absolutely.
And then we can learn a little bit more from it all. But thank you for sharing all that, because I know that's quite intense stuff, you know.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. I hope just
Yeah,
some people in the Bigfoot community and the alien community and the dogman community and the supernatural community are very turned off by just the subject of religion, and hopefully people didn't tune out just because of that. Again, I'm not a spiritual or religious person. I believe in God. I believe a higher power, but again, I also have questions.
yeah, we should be able to talk about it. We're not here to offend anyone, and nobody should take offense to it. And that's the top and bottom of it. Well, we're just talking about things, and that's all it is. Thanks, yes, to everyone who's watched tonight and got involved in the chat. Tomorrow night, fingers crossed. I'm hoping my guests can make it. I've got 2 guests on tomorrow night from Argentina. One is translating for his brother because his brother doesn't speak any English. It should be really interesting, but it's about the chupacabra, and this guy's got some personal experience and some theories on this creature, whatever it is. And then on Sunday night here, I've got a guy coming on, Colin Wolford, who's researching alien autopsies. So that's going to be pretty interesting. If anyone, come and join me for that. And I've got loads going on next week, but next Saturday, more importantly, next Saturday, I've got Stan Gordon coming on, UFO, Bigfoot, huge researcher. He's done it for 60 odd years. He's going to be a fascinating guy to talk to, and I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome.
Again, thank you, Jimmie. Thanks to everyone. I'll be here tomorrow night, hopefully, with my guest from Argentina. If not, I'll be here anyway with somebody.
Right on.
We'll sort something out.
Yeah. Right. When we get done, I'll go back through and look at some of the comments and try to answer people's questions if they have any.
Yeah, that'd be great. There was a few things come up, and but there'll be probably some stuff in the comments. So until the next time, everyone, take care, be kind to each other, and stay safe from this crazy virus madness that's going on at the moment. Good night, everyone.
Good night.